Hey Paige, Jared here, Monday afternoon. You're actually just down the hallway in the classroom right now for a seminar. But I wanted to thank you for your weekly updates. I wanted to talk through a couple of these points that you bring up and just wish you well as you start another full week of student teaching here. Um, as far as the questions, when I came in to observe you and I pose all kinds of questions, keep in mind that this is just what's going through my mind. And so I try to take a non-evaluative, non-judgmental approach. But some of these routines, as you mentioned in paragraph 1 here, you have established. And it's expected that all students know the expectations. And I think I noted that when students were, without being told, heading over to grab the textbook if they didn't have one in their desk. That shows good routine, good management. In the case of the study guide, I think the reason that I asked the question is, although that routine has been established by Justin in the past, that hey, while we're reading as a whole class, as a group, you're supposed to be completing the study guide. My question is, why is not everybody doing it? And how do we ensure that students are, even though they know the expectation, how do we encourage them to continue with that? Because we recognize that even in an advanced group, not everybody's going to follow all the directions all the time. And as far as the Serenity situation is concerned, I think that's good that you explain this to me, that you have a connection with her, a relationship with her. These are things that I wouldn't know coming into the classroom blind like I did for my observation. And so that's your judgment as far as how you want to encourage students to participate in those types of things. But in neither of those comments am I intending to insult you in any way. So please rest assured with that. I thought by and large, as I mentioned, the lesson was very good. Maybe some minimal tweaks to the closure kind of aspect of that. But yeah. I appreciate too your conversation, or you mentioned here that you've actually made some phone calls to parents. I'm curious how that went. And while you give me a great response here, I'd be curious about what's going on in your heart and mind as you're reaching out to parents. Are you finding them receptive as you're speaking about their students? Are you finding them difficult to persuade in certain ways? I think when it comes to equity for students, when we talk about those types of things, bringing parents or guardians, those role models, those figures from students' lives into the educational piece is really, really important. Many of your students, naturally, that's going to be the case. They find a lot of support at home. Some students, their parents just don't necessarily have the tools or the experience to know what to do in order to help their child succeed. And so I think by establishing those connections via phone, face-to-face through conferences, there are apps you can use where you can actually send text messages if they prefer that, and you don't have to send them from your phone. Okay, it comes up as just an anonymous number, and you're able to give updates on students. I think all of those are really powerful tools. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you here was just one way that I went about this when I was at Lincoln. And this is just a way of, one of my other residents had recently asked, Berg, how can I get a handle on student absences and missing work and failing grades and all of that kind of thing? And you're speaking of something a little bit different, but I think you're also feeling this a little bit. What I did is I created a document like this where over here I blacked them out, but these are all student names. And then I put the phone number or phone numbers that I was able to pull from Infinite Campus, and then maybe a parent's name right there. And you can see I started in early September. And I started with just 3 columns. When did I communicate? Okay, on this Monday or this Thursday or whatever it was, I emailed this person's parents. I'm going to call. And then I had a spot where I could talk about what the assignment is and then the result. As we progressed through to the next month, you see it changed a little bit. So I still have the students over here. And this is where, okay, well, this student was absent many days in a row, like an entire week. I emailed a caseworker that was working in the school. In some places, I was able to contact parents through phone conversations or whatever. What's the assignment? I can go here. Okay, here's what the student's missing. I was just able to add these notes. What is their current grade in the class? What is the result? And you'll see that I'm getting a lot of greens. Green being they finished it, they completed it, it's done. Yellow's in progress, and red is I haven't seen it yet. And as we progress forward throughout the semester, we can see where this list of students is getting longer. I'm not going to scroll down because you'll see some more names. But you can see these types of things. So I sent grade reports, email conversation, whatever it is. This is just one way that I was able to kind of track that data because, I mean, as you're recognizing, you got students that are gone for activities, you got students that are ill, you got students that are skipping, you got all these kinds of things. How do I keep all of this straight? And this was one way. It took time and energy, but it allowed me to be organized. And when somebody mentioned a student's name, I had more information to pull from rather than just looking up a name in an empty grade book. I was able to back up, yes, I have tried to communicate with parents. I have, in some ways, it was an insurance policy for me to be able to show that, yes, I am doing my due diligence in order to try to bring the student into a successful position. So I just wanted to share that with you for whatever it's worth. And then the last thing, I'll try to keep this video short. I just wanted to address your final paragraph where you just talk about the struggle with your 7th period. And I can remember this struggle. My last 2 years of teaching, I had my planning 7th period. So that looked a little different for me. But I can remember this just being a difficult time of the day, just based on that time in the clock, and the end is almost near, and students just seemed a little bit more rambunctious at this time. But I would encourage you to continue trying to develop those relationships, because I think that is a preemptive, preventative way of keeping the disturbances at bay. Once students recognize that you are committed and connected to them. And so one way of doing this might be to set up some kind of activity or some kind of work that would allow you to meet with a small group of students at a time. Maybe for 5, 10 minutes, maybe for 15 minutes if you divide them into 3 and you can get through 3 groups in 45 minutes, where you almost have stations. Or one station might be reading this section of Romeo and Juliet and doing some kind of study guide, and another section might have to do with some artwork or creativity or viewing a video of it or whatever it is. And then that final station would be an opportunity for you to just connect with them personally in a one-on-one way. That way you're still making an attempt to connect with these students, but you don't have, do you give me the number? I don't remember how many you have. You don't have 30 students all at once. Instead, you just have 10. And you're able to kind of give each of them some face time and really try to connect with them. Now, what that assumes is that at the other 2 stations, students are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But having Justin involved, he might be able to be used as kind of a referee to kind of float between those 2 stations while you invest more one-on-one with students at yours. And again, it's probably not the silver bullet, but it is one opportunity, one way of maybe looking to kind of take this large group and kind of make it a little bit smaller so you can connect with those students. So anyways, thank you again for your authenticity in your response. Let me know if you have questions and those types of things, especially after your seminar here. I do have a video posted for the work sample up on the EDU 525 website. I think it's under week 5 or 6. I think it's week 5 though. But I can also forward that to you in email form if you would prefer that. You just got to let me know. Let's try to get something set up here. First part of March, for me to come in, take a look at that notebook again, and maybe it is a 7th period class that you'd like me to visit. Maybe it's an earlier class period. We'll just have to see. But let me know what's on your schedule coming up in the next week or 2, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks, Paige.